This is a paid advertisement on behalf of Brazil Potash. What's going on, guys? This is Aaron from Departures Capital, and we're here with Mayo Schmidt, Executive Chairman of the Board of Directors of Brazil Potash. Pleasure to have you on today, Mayo. How are you doing?
Doing great, Aaron. Pleasure to be here with you. Thank you.
Yes, I'm really excited to be talking about this company. Let's talk first about building a national champion. So, Brazil imports about 98% of its potash needs today, making the country heavily dependent on geopolitically sensitive regions. How do you see Brazil Potash evolving into a true national champion that can secure Brazil's food security and reduce this reliance?
Well, Aaron, the important thing is we've got a discovery of a potash basin that's rather extraordinary and one of the largest in the world, probably second largest in the world, and yet to be developed. And this is really a tremendous opportunity for Brazil to become self-reliant, a country that is responsible for leading the world in exports in eight critical commodities. And when you add to it the geopolitical issues that are occurring today in the world between the conflicts, we think about where potash is sourced from today internationally. It comes from almost 20,000 kilometers away to Brazil, as you point out, that imports 98% of their potash. So they're bringing product from halfway around the world and importing 98% of their needs. And two of the three countries are in conflict and under sanctions and tariffs. So it creates a project here of self-help for the country. And then Brazil has responded to that. In 2022, they implemented a national fertilizer plan led by the political leaders in Brazil, recognizing the insecurity they have on supply of this critical nutrient for their crop production. So we're going to solve that through building a project that is going to produce 2.4 million tons per year and is will satisfy the demand for over 23 years in front of us with the opportunity to increase that over the course of time. So there's a great opportunity here that presents itself for self-help in a country that's heavily reliant and dependent on outside supplies.
It's amazing the scale of the project. So let's talk about the case for Brazil Potash. So many potash projects exist globally, but investors and stakeholders often ask, why Brazil Potash? What makes your project location, permitting status, and scale more attractive than other options in foreign jurisdictions?
Really, when I break this down, in terms of the economics, where you really start is the fact that location is absolutely critical here. When you think about this project is located adjacent to the largest agriculture production in Brazil, in the Mato Grosso. So really, let's start with the economics first, which are important for shareholders, and we'll get to the critical issue of global food supply. But the economics here are at CRU, who estimates globally the average prices, but they would estimate at average prices, the economics for this project are going to be $1 billion in EBITDA per annum. And even if you look at, because logistics advantage is so important in these commodity businesses, that even if you look at the competitors delivering into market from halfway around the world at their break even, this project still makes $650 million in EBITDA at their break even. And then if you look at CRU and even take 75% of the upside, this project will make $1.5 billion per annum in EBITDA. And then you add to it at full production, our peers typically trade at 8.9 to 9.1 times EBITDA. So if you took 9 times, you take $1 billion at CRU prices, you can do the math. You come out with an extraordinary return on invested capital over the course of time. So we talk about one, this project is fully permitted. 21 permits have all been completed, all that are necessary. It's the lowest cost provider in the world, and it will be below the cost actually of simply we can produce and deliver to the farm gate at less than the cost of transportation alone from peers. So dramatically lower transportation costs. The distance is dramatically lower. And quite frankly, we also lower the greenhouse gas emissions from the shipping from halfway around the world. And because we're strategically and globally located right adjacent to the Mato Grosso. So the source is 7 miles from the river. We're loading backhaul barges that are coming back empty from hauling grain to ports for export. So we have the benefit of logistics, transportation, the location, and I might just mention one other thing, which is really powerful opportunity within this business. 85% of the power for this plant is going to be hydroelectric that comes out of Manaus. And we've already got an MOU to build that, which we can talk about.
Awesome. So let's talk about the strategic importance to Brazil now. So potash is a vital nutrient for agriculture, and Brazil is one of the world's largest agricultural producers in the world. Can you explain why potash is so critical specifically for Brazil's farming sector and how your project aligns with the country's long-term food production goals?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And because and for purpose, it's designated a critical mineral. Plants grow sturdier, they resist pests, resist any drought, and they increase production. And when you think about soil depletion in a country that raises at least 2 to 3 crops per year on the farmland, the fertilizer for growing production is absolutely critical. And we also might add that Brazil's agriculture is responsible for 25% of the GDP for Brazil. And to further strengthen Brazil's role in the global food supply chain and reduce the country's reliance upon imports. And we've heard, lately, obviously, the risk of additional tariffs up to 50% being applied to the importation from particular countries. You can see why self-reliance becomes really, really important here. And we've got an adjacency to not only the Mato Grosso, but another 100 or more years of supply should we choose to expand the plant. So it's really important to get this plant up and running. It takes about 4.5 years to do that. And Brazil itself has an annual growth rate on its consumption of 6.8%. So you've got rising food demand, you've got soil nutrient loss from production, and you've got a 6.8% increase in demand every year, and you've got an imported critical nutrient. So self-solution and creating a national champion for Brazil is absolutely critical here.
So you've secured full permitting for the project, which is a major milestone in this sector, as you just mentioned. Could you walk us through the scale of the project and how you plan to execute development from plant operations to logistics using Brazil's renewable hydroelectric power base?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for the question. So to your good point, the project is fully permitted. We've also completed site preparation. We're now prepared to move into construction, and we're working on securing funding for that. We're working on securing an anchor investor for the project. On the equity side, the debt side is fully prepared to act. And I might mention a couple other key points because there's been a lot of due diligence done by global companies who have invested in the business. Franco-Nevada, to their credit, has done extensive due diligence. They've committed to a $140 million royalty. Amagi has committed as the largest farming operation in Brazil. So they've agreed to and contracted for 550,000 tons of take or pay. So it's a customer that on full production from the plant is already covered for the next 14, 15 years. Key Trade, another global trading organization, has come in and taken 900,000 on take or pay. And another key milestone at the asset level is Victor, who agreed and has signed an MOU to build the transmission lines that we're talking about, which are about 165 miles from Manaus at a cost of $200 million. They'll do that on their balance sheet. They'll also provide $20 million in equity injection into the business as well. So really well prepared at the asset level. So it's reduced the cost to build the plant while also preparing for the offtake agreements, which are important as we continue on. So when we look at all of those facts, and then on the environmental side, 85% hydroelectric, in addition to we've worked with the governor of the state, and he's working with us to supply, while we're building the power line, there's additional power can be provided to over 200,000 residents located in our region that are currently on diesel generation will be transformed over to hydroelectric. So it meets the positive and economic impacts that are just incredible for Brazil and for the world.
While we're on this topic, let's talk regional economic and social impacts. So, this project is set to create over 1,000 direct jobs in a region that truly needs new opportunities. So, what kind of positive social and economic impact do you expect Brazil Potash to have on local communities and the broader region? You can expand on what you were just talking about.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. In fact, to your point, this will create, we estimate over 1,300 permanent jobs once fully operational. There'll be thousands of people will be involved from, electrical engineers, electricians, people that are doing welding. We're going to get the plant built, in internal system and then move the fabricated plant onto site. So it's a construct. So it makes it much simpler and not weather delayed or weather dependent. It also boosts local infrastructure because we're building power systems, which will provide access to water that's not readily available in the region in terms of water wells and other food security opportunities. And then when you step back, in addition to supporting Brazil, this is a real complement to food security risk steps forward. So 1 in 10 people globally are exposed to levels of severe food insecurity. That means 730 million people have faced hunger in 2023 as measured by the World Trade Organization. So when you take a country that's reliant on an imported fertilizer from countries that are experiencing geopolitical issues, tariffs, as I mentioned, and sanctions causing vulnerability to Brazil and the world, and thus the world food security. So we're growing to 9 billion people on the planet by 2040, and Brazil being #1 exporter of products around the world, and the fact that it grows 2 to 3 crops a year and depletes the soil, and then imports from half a world away its critical fertilizer. This is absolutely the right timing for a project like this to take place and get up and operating.
Definitely. So now let's talk long-term vision and global positioning. So with the ability to replace costly imports and leverage renewable, low-carbon energy, Brazil Potash could transform Brazil into a more self-sufficient and competitive force in global agriculture. Looking ahead, what does success look like for you and the company over the next decade?
We're really committed to completion to address food security globally. We have a domestic solution, creating a national champion in Brazil. We're working on securing next stages for funding for the construction and creating value for shareholders. The share price continues to be very, very positive. And when we think about the offtake agreements, the asset construction off balance sheet that's occurring has been very, very positive lately. And I would tell you that I am absolutely personally excited to bring value to shareholders when we talk about the EBITDA, the return on invested capital commitment, and to build Brazil's economy, strengthening global food security for one of Brazil's critical businesses and the leading GDP provider.
Well, thank you for the info, Mayo. It's been a pleasure meeting you and Matt, the whole team. I'm excited for what you guys got going on, and I look forward to covering it. It's a pleasure to be part of it.
Look forward to our next discussion. Well done. Thank you.